afternoon to all our guests once again. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Regan, and I'm going to say good day to everyone with a Digicon this week with an absolute difference. First of all, as Regan said, because Youth Day is coming up, and it's really wonderful to have some young people in our building back home. As Regan said, I am in New York. We've just finished 3 days in Washington, and I'll give you a little bit of an update there. But before I start, obviously, I'm not in the Western Cape at the moment, but I'm being kept fully abreast of what is happening there. We do have a long weekend, but we also have a wet Western Cape, and specifically, I think of those people that are displaced at the moment, and send you very warm wishes at this time. I also want to thank everybody involved, from Minister Bradell, who's acting Premier at the moment, to our disaster management people across the province, all getting involved in making sure that we are mitigating risks wherever possible. We are making sure people stay home if possible, and I think that's a clear message. The rain is not over. We have more rain coming this weekend. Obviously, everything is very wet, and we've got many rivers that are flowing and breaking their banks, and specifically around the Winelands area, Worcester, Rawsonville, in that area. But the whole province, very wet, and can I please say we all need to be very, very vigilant, care for those who are not able to look after themselves. And again, please respect all of the officials in the work that they are busy doing, trying to make sure that everyone stays safe while we manage the flow of water that is happening everywhere around the province, and specifically those areas where our riverbanks are flooding. Back to the last 3 days in Washington, D.C. We were here in this part of the world talking about trade, investment, looking at different ways to grow the economy. Obviously, this is about getting jobs into our economy, and I can think of no more needed sector or arena for jobs and that's amongst young people. And so I think that also puts a tone to what we are going to be discussing today. But we spoke to senators, officers, and officials who are involved in preparing and drafting the legislation called AGOA. This is a trade piece of law that enables many jobs in our region. So it's critical that we engage on AGOA. But we went further than just trade. We also spoke to investors, people in film, spoke about film and what the new jobs in film, and perhaps that's also an area that we need to speak about amongst the youth. We met with NASA. I'm not sure everybody knows, but NASA are busy setting up in Matjiesfontein an office and a radio telescope for communications for their new programs, where they're going to be needing to communicate to the base that they're setting up on the moon to take further exploratory craft to Mars. We are going to be playing a part in that all the way in South Africa. And I can think of no better place than those young people thinking about astronauts and space. And there's an opportunity for the future here as well. But of course, we also met the World Bank. We met the IMF. We met PEPFAR, which is an organization that has pumped millions of rands from the US government into our region for healthcare. And then, of course, we had a very good meeting yesterday with Power Africa and USAID helping us with our energy crisis. Usually these Digicons are about energy. Today, we're going to be talking about youth and the energy amongst our youth and the potential opportunities going forward for the youth in our region. And so we will be continuing our visits today and tomorrow here in New York. Also, trade, investment, how we can make sure we can position ourselves in the Western Cape in a better way so we create better opportunities into the future. But let's get back to this Digicon. And with that, can I ask Jackie to please come in and just talk to us about the programs that we have in the Western Cape. And then we'll get on to hearing from the young people that are in the boardroom at the moment. So Jackie, can I hand over to you? And with that, also welcome everybody that's joined us today on this Digicon. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Premier. Morning to you. And as you say, today we are on the eve of June the 16th. It's a day where we remember the bravery of youth who were massacred in their fight against apartheid, but also celebrate the agency of youth. And I think you've spoken about that already, because I think it's not atypical for youth to be very often the first to recognize when things are not going right, and also to fly the flag and take action. And that's really what we as Western Cape government want to focus on, is the agency of youth. We know that young people face many challenges. You've already spoken about the work that you're doing there around employment, and we know that, you know, if all of us were looking for jobs, only one of us would get it if we were a young person, and that those without matric are it's more difficult for them, but also those without any working adults in their home, without social connections, that it's more difficult for women, and it's more difficult for people out of city centres to find work. So we're very grateful for the work that you're doing there, and that many of the departments do, opening up opportunities for youth. But it's not just about employment. We also know that well-being is a huge challenge for our youth. We've seen an increase in suicide. The murder rate is unacceptable. GBV continues to rise, and youth alienation remains very, very high. So we know it's time to act as Western Cape government. And with your leadership, every department is doing something to address the needs of young people. Many of them are focused on programs that provide bridges to the future, and to the future for young people, but also for all of us, because they are our future. As an example, the Year Beyond, which is a program that DCAS runs, creates 3,000 of those opportunities. But most importantly, it provides opportunities for young people to make a difference in their community while they are working on themselves and building that bridge into their future. And it's that agency of youth to address some of the wicked problems, helping people to learn to read, connecting across generations, building connections in families, listening to young people, that is just so important for the kind of future that we want to see. Regardless of the program or the department, as Western Cape government, we know it's very important for young people to get social connections and social and economic connections. It's very important for them to access psychosocial support, given the trauma and some of the well-being burdens that they carry. Mentorship is key, and we know that because many young people need someone to help them navigate the knots in the journey. And access to opportunities, be that information or things like transport to access opportunities. And it's these aspects that we've built into the norms and standards as Western Cape government, and to ensure that all our programs include these critical things in their design, so that we know that we are meeting the needs of young people. We also call on all departments to monitor the impact that they're having. And so we're delighted to hear from some of the young people who benefit from these programs, what the impact of those programs have been. But I think most importantly, this Youth Month, we are focusing on the ideas, the agency, the power, the ability of young people to actually solve their own problems, and for all of us who've been around for a bit longer to learn from them. And so that's really what the Tete Youth Partner campaign is about, which is a campaign that's running over Youth Month, to hear from young people what their challenges are, but most importantly, what their solutions are to those challenges. And I think the links for that campaign will be put in the chat later if they're not already in the chat. And so we'll just encourage as many young people as possible to give us your ideas so that we can help you solve the issues that we're facing. Thanks very much, Pragya.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I see my camera is not. Is it on? There we go. Thank you very much. Thanks for that introduction. Now, this is where I'm going to be asking each of the panelists who are assembled in the boardroom back in Cape Town, if you could each just quickly tell us a little bit about yourself, a sort of minute introduction, just each one of you. Tell us about yourself and perhaps one or two of the challenges that that you have faced, but just an introductory remark from each person.
Good morning to the Premier and everyone watching on all the online platforms. I am Damien Brain, a 22-year-old from the beautiful Valley of Paul East specifically, in a small community of Amstelhof. I've always had a passion and interest for youth development, well-being and safety, but I'm also aspiring entrepreneur, artist, and have my own brand, hopefully one day to have my own business. I'm currently a year beyond academy student and mentor in training for the Shakuma Violence Prevention Program. Year Beyond has given me the platform to grow immensely as a person. It has not only developed my professional skills, but also my personal skills, working in experiences in the workplace. Through the program, we work with young high school learners, teaching them social emotional skills on how to reduce learner-learner violence, but also to become resilient and deal with the daily challenges of life. Being part of the Year Beyond program, I've had the opportunity to develop my skills by having mentors in place that guide me on my journey and navigate some of the challenges we face. But I also feel that having counseling for young people is very important because this provides them with support system to have freedom of expression. But I also believe that being creative is a way of healing yourself and healing from trauma and being able to express yourself creatively. Year Beyond also has other programs, such as the academic programs that provide young people with assistance for reading and numeracy, but they also have social well-being programs where they are able to talk openly and express themselves in a safe space. Another program is also the social cohesion, where they have programs like Scouts and other opportunities for youth to engage with fellow youth. The program has really given me the support structure to develop professionally and have confidence in my own abilities. It has changed my perspective from seeing how we as a community face problems, but you also can become an active change maker and see all the possibilities and potentials that we have. Thank you.
Greetings everyone, my name is Amanda Dele, a 22-year-old from Old Crossroads. I'm an educator and out of the PYEI program. Being in this program has helped me a lot because first of all, I'm grateful for the opportunity given by the government to work for the PYEI. Being in this program means a lot to me because I was one of the unemployed youth and in my communities, but it changed when I got the job from the government. So I'm really grateful for this opportunity. It has actually made me to think, look, to learn a lot of things about children, about what's affecting the community, about issues surrounding my community, because it became an eye-opener to me, because sometimes when we in our community, we tend to forget, or we tend to have blind eye situation happening and around us. We tend to forget what's surrounding us and what's the problem within us. So bringing this program has helped me a lot to see the change, to be the change in my community, to actually bring change in my community as well. It has also made my family so proud of me, because right now at least I'm breaking the bread and I'm also part of the bread when I'm in the family, of course. So it actually opened the doors for me, and I'm grateful for that opportunity. Thank you.
With all protocols observed, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Abungi Lefutumele. I'm from Masupumele, Fishu. It's a small town where there's lots of unemployed youth, lots of youth out of schools. And I'm currently working under the Chrysalis Academy. Chrysalis Academy is a government organization where youth from the age of 18 to 25 can get skills, and the youth over, let's say, the youth that doesn't have matric can also get their skills also, which includes electricity, electric circuits, welding, securities. So Chrysalis Academy offers a wide range of skills, and Chrysalis changed my life because it doesn't neglect where you come from as a person and as a community. It has a holistic approach which deals with spiritual, well-being, mental, physical, and emotional. So in my time in Chrysalis, I learned a lot about youth, and that's where I gained the passion that no, I can be the mentor I wish I had. Now, when it comes to youth in communities, cultural issues, traditional and gender issues also play a vital part in youth development. Now, Chrysalis Academy doesn't neglect all of that. It brings the whole, like it's a holistic approach. It brings everything together so that you can grow as a person and you can reach your full potential. For me now, I I was unemployed, and I never had the idea that I can never be back at school. But now my mind is open. Chrysalis acted as a bridge of which me, Abungi, the Futumele, can change my life and at the same time change the other youth's life. Thank you.
Afternoon, Premier. I am Lukman Andrea. I'm 22 years old. I'm a chef at the Test Kitchen President. So I'm part of a program of Chef Luke Dale Roberts called the Fledglings, which involves taking unskilled people, people with not with no educational background, and just uplifting them, finding a future in the culinary industry. So we have a front of house, we have the kitchen, we have the bar as well. So we in this program we come and then we get divided into like where passion really lies. So we first get tested in each of the three sectors of the kitchen, and then after that we find a passion we follow, and Chef Luke is there to accommodate us and to help us find our passion in our future. So if it wasn't for him, I would still be stepping on my mother's toes and walking on the heels in the kitchen, trying to find out the kitchen. And he showed me the direction. What? So, like, the kitchen is where I wanted to be. And Chef Luke Dale Roberts and the government as well afforded me up with the opportunity to actually be part of a kitchen. It's not any kitchen, it's the test kitchen. So, I'm fortunate to be working at the test kitchen, and this program clearly like changed my life because where we come, um, where I'm located, where I come from, as a very rough place. It's like gangster infested. It's like it's there's no direction out, and this was my direction out. I was like I was in a dark hole, and I saw the light. The hand reached out to me, and I took the hand, but no regrets. And up till today, I don't regret the opportunity I got because, like, at the moment, I'm busy studying at the culinary school called Sense of This, all due to Chef Luke Del Roberts and also the government program. So I'm very thankful for it. And yeah.
Good afternoon. My name is Daniela Kampa from Johannesburg. I'm working as administration for safety and security over there. This program has helped me a lot in so many different ways. Because after my matric, I tried to apply and I didn't get any score, and it was so bad and stressful a lot for me. It was so hard, a lot. I had to watch my siblings go to school, and my mom leave for work, and I'll be alone. Felt sorry for myself a lot. And then until I got this opportunity to participate in this program, it has entirely like helped me, not only financially, but also made me to realize what exactly I wanted to do with my life onwards. And it also made me realize that the things that I have applied for weren't really things that I was passionate about. And I'm also trying to pursue my dreams, because now I'm gonna do agricultural economics. So yeah, and I was so fortunate enough to have a mentor like Miss Kutala that I have. Kutala, she's so passionate. I mean, she's so passionate about like everything, and she's helped me a lot to see how the world goes and helping me with the work and stuff. I'm grateful for that. Thank you.
Hello all, I'm Kelly Karen Benwell and I'm 19 years old. I'm proudly from Point Clearville. I attended Good Hope Seminary and matriculated in 2021. I am a 2023 paid intern at Provincial Treasury within the SIPS unit, and I am grateful to God and to the government for giving me this opportunity and for being here today. And my desire career is either a personal assistant, which I'm getting experience in at the moment, or a chartered accountant. And I work with people that inspires me and they are successful. Doesn't matter what they do, but as long as they feel to themselves they are successful, which inspires me. And I get a lot of exposure to the world of work and training, like logos training and my portal training. There was networking events like the PT Connect session that we have, development programs. So I'm very grateful for the opportunity. Thank you.
Sorry, I've got my camera on again. Wow, that sounds amazing. And I really am, after listening to each and every one of you, I'm sorry that I'm not in the room along with you to not only just have a dialogue that everyone's tuned into, but also perhaps even have a further in-depth conversation. And maybe we need to find some way to do that when I get back. But that was really interesting, amazing, and great to hear. I think, first of all, the role that mentors play. I think Jackie spoke about that as well. And I think that's always very important. And anybody who's tuned in, wherever you have an opportunity, become a mentor. And I think to each and every one of you as well in your lives now, because of the opportunities you've been given to become mentors. But I think perhaps we need to get into the dialogue where we start dealing with some issues I think that youth face. And perhaps if each and every one of you can just think about it. I don't know if everyone needs to answer the question, but you've been given an opportunity, but can you perhaps just come back and say, what do you think are the biggest challenges that young people face? And think about it in the community that you come from. Just what is that biggest challenge? And maybe even venture into saying, what you think could be done about it.
Hello, everyone, once again. In my community where I work, there's a lot of violence. So one of the biggest issues is school dropouts due to violence and trauma. Now, a lot of young people have to travel long distances to reach their schools or even workplaces. Now, these violence affect them, or they're having to live in fear of their life and being fearful of being attacked, and even having past traumas that they have to deal with from domestic violence, or even other instances where they have gained these trauma. And this aids into them not attending school or not even eventually dropping out. Some of them even might join gangs just to feel safe. But we know this is not a positive choice for them. So school dropouts is a very big issue because some of the youth leave school from an early age or grades such as grade 7 to grade 10 and eventually do nothing and become unemployed. So there's really no safe haven or mentorship for them to engage positively and develop this. Another challenge is also the lack of resources and digital literacy because some of them don't really have access to computers or even internet because they come from low income households. They are very poor in digital literacy, and this also deprives them of lots of opportunities out there, such as these programs that me and my fellow youth are part of, because now they don't have access to this and they don't have awareness of these programs. And this also disadvantages them in the professional workplace. As we all know, being computer literate is a very important skill in the world we live in now.
Thank you. Who else wants to?
Greeting to you, Premier. I think the biggest challenges that my youth in my community is facing is unemployment. It's a huge challenge that we're facing as the youth in my community because there are no jobs for the youth, and once we don't have jobs or once we don't have anything to do, it actually goes to what my fellow youth said, crime, of which it's also it causes a huge matter. It's a huge matter, and it actually messes with our mental health, number one, because we tend to overthinking, and then after overthinking, we tend to stress a lot about the issues because sitting at home and doing nothing is hectic, it's stressful, and as stressful as it is actually, it was channeled into having suicidal thoughts, having anxiety, having depression, and I'm saying it plays a major role in our mental health because you would find a lot of unemployed youth having depression, having anxiety, having nothing to do, and it takes the youth goes like it takes the youth straight to using substance abuse like alcohol because it's their running point, it's their running place where it's like our problem solver. We feel that it is a solver. Our alcohol is the solver, is the problem solver. I mean, it leads to that. So unemployment is a very major role, and the youth is actually educated and uneducated youth. You'll find graduates at home doing nothing, unemployed with their certificate, with qualifications that could actually get them jobs, but they're unemployed, they're at home doing nothing. It's stressful if you spend 4 years in university and you graduate and you have nothing after that. It is stressful. It may lead to depression. It may lead to anxiety, everything that is actually of mental health. So it is a very huge problem. Also, the substance abuse problem we have is that it is caused actually by unemployment. It is caused by stress because we have nothing to do actually. We have nowhere to go. We're just sitting at home doing nothing. So if you don't have anything to do, what else can you do? Drink alcohol. It may look like it is a problem solver, but it is not. So because we feel like neglected by the government because government is doing nothing with graduates sitting at home. Government is doing nothing with the youth unemployed. So some of the youth may feel neglected by the government as well. Also, another challenge that we facing is it is financial exclusion from tertiary institution, like having money, having to pay for institution or having no money actually because once you're in university or tertiary, you get the feelings, emotions, NSFAS batteries. So once NSFAS drops, we're coming from homes that actually can never pay university fees. We're coming from home that actually are not aware of people going to university. So being financially excluded from any institution, it is a problem. It is a challenge because we want education. It's not like we don't want education, but we want education. But the fund is what we have because we're being excluded by whomever, because there's no way that we actually may pay thousands and thousands of fees where we come from, because we're coming from small communities, rough communities, poor communities. So we tend on to need our NSFAS to actually gather us bursaries. We need funds to actually be educated because we want education. We want to be trained. We want to be educated. We want to work. We want to improve situations in our home. So I feel like that's another major challenge, being excluded from tertiary institution. Thank you, Premier.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. And yeah, some really good feedback there. I want to say that, obviously as a government, if I look at where our budget goes, obviously the province spends most of its money in two areas. The one is health, and the other one, or health and well-being, and the other one is in education. And I think specifically listening to both of those two inputs, I want to come back and say, that's where so much of our focus goes. We spend billions every single year on education. And of course, education is how you prepare yourself for the future. I want to ask you, and I'm also very interested in innovation. So I want to ask you what you think the Western Cape government can do differently. And that's in the context of the education space at the moment, where we really do try to keep young people in school, that we don't have dropouts in the school process. We are also busy with a major program at the moment called, it's basically catching up on the learning losses that have happened during the pandemic. People were every second day at school. There was lots of times when people couldn't go to school, and now we've got to catch up. And I know that every single weekend in our province, 20,000 young people in primary school, half of them are at school busy doing extra reading classes, because we've got to catch up in our ability to read. And of course, in high school, learners are actually doing maths on weekends, because just as I am meeting with the film industry or NASA and space, to be a film person where you're doing sound engineering, where you're doing the latest technology in these film studios, is you'll be working in a film studio on the other side of the world, and one in Cape Town, and they'll be connected digitally. So that's about electronics. That's about even this platform today, connecting through platforms like Zoom, but now they're going to be doing filming through these kind of platforms. These need skills in sort of the new world. And so I want to ask, we run these programs, we put broadband and Wi-Fi into hotspots, but what do you think as a young person we could do even further to unlock these challenges? How do we actually try to keep young people from dropping out from school? We're creating this environment. So I want to put a question back to you. What do you think would be an innovation around making sure that young people take the opportunities that government puts there for them and makes use of them, and not, for example, I think, as Damien said, people dropping out from school. Obviously, the other side is violence prevention, which is something that racks our brains every single day. We've got a safety plan. We need to make sure we're starting to make our regions safer. This is also a very complex question. I'll be meeting with the mayor here in New York, and a lot of work that the New York police and the city of Cape Town's Metro Police have been working together on how do we get policing, and of course what we're working with violence prevention better. But what do you think are maybe some of those innovations that we could try as a government?
So for me, I have a problem about people with middle income earners. They are not, there's a lack of bursaries, as they don't qualify for the criteria, because for me, it's unfair because normally people's expenses are more than their income, and there's a limited amount of bursaries for middle income earners. And the other thing is that government, the Western Cape government, they can have high school career expos, not only where they explain about an occupation, but also where they explain in more detail, like the work environment that you will be working in and the expectation. Another point that I would like to make is like select deserving candidates, students from as early as grade 10 perhaps, where from less fortunate schools where you provide you mentor them, and you obviously the marks should be consistent, where they get bursaries for the high school career as well as for the university, and thereafter they can they should be offered an internship that is already in place, and but throughout the years of that they will be having this program, they should go to workshops and courses where they are empowered and groomed to the person that they want to become. Thank you.
Thank you. Kelly, just say one more thing for me. When you were at school, did you think about treasury and finance and the space that you're in at the moment? And you said about workshops. Do you think that that might have changed if you'd seen different things about, or had you already made up your mind that that was the area that you wanted to go into?
In school, yeah, I always wanted to be a chartered accountant, but as I'm learning new things about myself, and I'm a very organized person, so it's either a chartered accountant or personal assistant. But in accounting, yes.
Okay, well, that's great. It's so nice when people actually know where they want to go, because so many times people just don't really. And I think we learn things every single day, and I'm sure each and every one of you are learning every single day. Anybody else want to talk a bit about innovation in government?
Premier, my problem is government is doing their part, but people is not coming to the halfway mark of reaching government. They don't want to take government's hand at the midpoint. You understand? Government puts us, like, for example, my area is like gang infested to the max. But with it being gang infested, there's such a lot of governmental programs being in place. Like when you go to school, you have your mod centers, which gives opportunities for extramural activities where they go like your soccer, your rugby, those type of careers. Then as well, through your schooling career, government put out the educational system so well, where you get exposed to each and every career with time. You're gonna get exposed slightly, which I know is sometimes not enough, because like I didn't do hospitality on high school, but I heard about this chef. Obviously, main thing you hear everyone runs for is the money. The money, everyone's runs for the money. So like people for me, it's a mental illness people have where they're chasing the wrong thing. They're not chasing the dream of being a chef, being passionate of cooking for cooking, and they're chasing the money. As money. So my problem is our areas is it's for me, like I said, it's a mental sickness. When people don't want to look at the bigger picture, and then like they're too reliant and less independent going forward, because like government put in place those programs, and also like the opportunities is there, but where's the people's where's their side? Like, I'm gonna step up today, I'm gonna follow this program, not thinking, okay, this is just one of a government program, they just want to show that they're also doing something for our country, because it isn't so. It's a system, it's something that government puts in place to help. But as we with weak minds, we fight against that system instead of working together with government and making it one. why we working against, because like government is doing their part. Where there can be a bit of an improvement is on the crime sector, because like I understand like kids are like, because they're weak at their mind, crime looks so much fun because there's money. So like our people is only chasing money. So where they see money, they're gonna go to money. So like we need proper leaders that's gonna lead us to how can I say, like, to reach our full potential. For example, if they, like she said, workshops, I would say that's the least government can do more. Is just do workshops upon the careers we have outside, giving people a bit more insight to help them find their career. But the people in our community is too weak to see what government is doing for them, and all they expect is more, more, more. But
can I ask you, Juan? Can I ask you? You know, you some of the introductory remarks spoke about mentors, but I think now with the opportunity that you've been given, not only from government, because of course Luke Dale Roberts is become a mentor to you, but now do you think you are able to be that mentor now to influence the next person to say, but hang on a second, you know, look at what I've managed to achieve, and you can do it too. Or perhaps Abongile, you know, the opportunity through Chrysalis and what that did for you, you know, you able to, so because I think we also need young people to be those mentors. It can't be other people, we ourselves. And I think that's what I was hearing coming through. It's about partnering. Government can only do so many things, but citizens have got a responsibility. You know, you've got a responsibility to go to school. The school has been put in place. But then what about the over and above that? So what do you guys feel about, you know, your own role now as being a mentor? And then I know that time is running ahead. So I also at the same time, maybe if you can just come in on that. But then does anybody want to come in on my biggest challenge at the moment is what we can do about energy? Because of course, load shedding is having a massive impact across every single society. And has anybody got any ideas that they can give me about what you think is maybe some good ideas around energy, or perhaps, you know, some things that you might have seen already? Because, you know, citizens are also very innovative and people come up with good ideas. And, you know, maybe that in itself can be something that can solve many problems for society.
Premier, for that, but just coming back to one of the concerns my fellow youth mentioned. Being weak-minded is something that is not common in all of us, because like these young kids face very traumatic experiences, and this causes them in a low self-esteem, and not having that opportunity to have positive role models like us who are mentors in training now. They don't always have the willingness to step up for that. That's why I feel we as mentors are there stepping into community to do that. Because yes, the programs and internships are in place, but they don't always have that positive view of, okay, that person is standing out in my community. He doesn't have a Bugatti or a Lamborghini, but he's dressed well every day. He's doing what he has. He's providing for his family. But that's why we are here as mentors. And in part of that is saying that the innovation comes in with us showing these young people that there is other informal opportunities. Like Kelly mentioned earlier, she was organized, but you know, a lot of other people like myself, I was very academically strong, but I didn't know what I wanted to study because I didn't know all the options. But through year on, I found out that there's so many other opportunities, like being a facilitator, working in Chrysalis, becoming a chef. But these kids don't get exposed to these opportunities because they don't have access to maybe youth centers like in my community. So yes, the opportunities are there, but it's for us to step up and be that strong-minded people to show them that there are people like you coming from your community that can be better. So before we just get into the energy crisis, I just wanted to mention that as well. Thank you, Premier.
Yeah, excellent. Does anybody, I know we need to get to questions because people might want to ask questions that are online. Anybody want to make a comment on energy?
Okay, good afternoon again, Premier. When it comes to energy in South Africa, we're using coal. Coal is a non-renewable resource. which means it's quite expensive. And Western Cape, we by far is the most advanced economy in South Africa with all these provinces. I know that because I've been to a few. So the idea that I have is using more renewable resources like wind and solar power to generate electricity, which will be cost effective, and sometimes it will be more sustainable because it keeps on renewing. And the power that Eskom is using is not actually working because it can't sustain it. It doesn't have enough funds. And the corruption in South Africa is also playing a huge part of this load shedding crisis of energy. So using renewable resources and like using renewable resources like wind and solar energy will reduce the load shedding in the country, and by far it will actually be more effective. And many households don't afford electricity, so especially in the townships, you get households that are illegally using electricity through those, what do you call those poles? Yeah, illegal connections. They're using illegal connections. So with the wind power, it will save South Africa from a lot of chaos. Thank you.
Thanks, Abongile. I think we must arrange that you visit Green Cape one of these days to go and have a look at what they do from enabling the green economy and the future of our energy, especially making sure we're lowering our carbon footprint. I think that's excellent. And yeah, maybe you're going to be our next green energy specialist. But I'm going to hand back to Regan because I think, and I can't see the questions here at the moment, but there probably are questions, and then hopefully some questions not only to me, but to some of the panel here. So Regan, can I hand back to you and just see if there are any questions? I see we've got 10 minutes left.
Thanks, Premier. I'm just going to go into our chat box just to remind those who are joining us for the Digicon, you're welcome to raise your questions in the chat box on the Digicon. You can also raise your hands if you want to ask those questions. You can also get into contact with the Premier through social media platforms. Someone has asked a question here in the chat box with regards to the energy problem. I think the only way load shedding will ever commence to being capped is when officials responsible for the main cause of outages are held accountable. My question is, when will this start taking place? And I think that's the ongoing question, Premier. How are we going to generally deal with the energy crisis? I think in our trip in the US, this is what a lot of people, whether they be lawmakers or people operating in the private sector that you've met with, they've been asking us as well. What are we going to do to tackle the energy crisis and to hold those who have perpetuated, I suppose, this crisis, hold them to account? So I'll pass, I'll now hand over to you to tackle that question. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Regan. And I suppose also some of the comments that came out from the panelists was around crime, violence prevention, criminality, and of course, a lot of our energy system linked back, and you hear about it often, about corruption and how corruption has actually ended up giving us this load shedding platform that we have every single day in our lives, and blocking jobs and blocking the economy. So not just not having electricity, but it stops growth in our economy. And I think that in itself is a major lesson that crime has massive consequences to citizens. And especially if it's in the space of corruption. And I think the real question is consequences. When people are involved in this kind of illegal activity? And that's a question that we get asked, in Washington. What are the consequences? Because if we can't deal with the corruption, how are you going to get investment? How are we going to change the system around delivering energy? It is the big question. It's the question that we continually have to ask as a province, because we don't manage the criminal justice system. We don't actually manage the policing system. And so we keep on asking for changes, and we've got to keep on thinking about it. But that comes back to innovation, but it also comes back, I think, to a point that was raised around our own individual responsibilities. So we all know what the consequences are, but how do we, as every single citizen, every single person, become that person who make sure that corruption doesn't happen around you. Make sure you point it out. And it starts with those little things. And that's, I think, where young people can also play a role in a mentorship and a leadership role. But it is the critical question. And we still haven't managed to deal with it in our country to remove that corruption that is influencing our energy outcome or any other aspect of life. We've spent a lot of money as a country on the Zondo Commission. Part of that is showing areas where this corruption takes place, but what are the continual consequences? Why are those people not being having their days in court and us seeing convictions? It is the real question, and we've all got to make sure as South African citizens we are all working towards a crime-free country, because it's the corruption is on the one side, but it is all the levels and layers of crime.
Thank you, Premier. Another question just popped up here, and with a comment, so inspired by all the youth speaking today and for this engagement. Premier, what would your message be to other young people in the province to, I suppose, realize their full potential, and to those who are at risk, who are in difficult circumstances, to rise up above their circumstances?
So I think when I first get that question, I think about, I think about myself. And, I always believe that a crisis area is the area of opportunity. I've been an entrepreneur in my life, and where there's a problem, that's where there's an opportunity. And I listen to the young people speaking here today who are stepping into the start of their careers. They've used an opportunity given to them by government. How do we make sure that we use those opportunities to fix society's biggest problems? At the same time is obviously finding a niche for yourself, a job that is going to bring you an income that can enable you to look after your family, to further study, to further empower yourself, to play a more meaningful role in our society. And that again comes to individual responsibility of citizens. And I was really encouraged, again, also listening to each person speaking today about, taking responsibility for yourself, for your life, to make sure that you are going to pull yourself out of the difficult environment that so many people find themselves in our country today. And if we all start doing that, we really start to change things.
Thank you, Premier. We are running up against time, so I think we will end the question and answer session there, and just maybe allow you, Premier, just to wrap up this week's very special Digicon. Thank you very much.
Yes, obviously, I think people might have been logging in to say, where's LV Leicester? Where are we going as a province? How are things going? I must say, in the last while, hearing the latest announcement by the Mayor of Cape Town on the wheeling pilot project, which I think was well received here with the energy people that we were speaking to in the USA. So a first pilot now happening in South Africa. It happens in Cape Town, where 15 companies are generating electricity. And as Abongile was talking about solar and wind, these are electricity that's generated from a renewable source. And then they are sending that electricity through the network or the grid system to another user. 40 users are going to be drawing power from 15 investors who've put power systems in place. And that's really exciting, because that is starting to lead to the new world that we're trying to create around energy resilience, our 5,700 megawatt end target, and everything in between. And fixing the energy problem is not going to be like turning a switch on. It is months and even years for South Africa on this journey to get to a space where we've got a whole new energy system giving us resilience of energy. But I must also say that I think that is an arena, especially for young people, and thinking about Youth Day, the jobs that are involved into the future in the energy sector. So at our technical universities, learning about solar panels, installation, building of, maintaining. There's all of the electrical work, the electrical engineering, and there's going to be so many jobs in the electricity space, in the renewable space, and then of course the derivatives that come from them. If you are electrically inclined, I know that high voltage engineers, there's a huge shortfall, not only in South Africa, but across the world. I know that we're going to have to be putting lots of new grid connections in. That means electrical engineers. That means lots of construction. So I think there's huge opportunity in the energy space going into the future, because it is a crisis. So whatever those crises that we identify, how do we turn that around and say, so what is the opportunity? And that's what I heard today from so many of the young people on this panel, in the various areas that they come from, but also in the areas that they've chosen to get involved. And I want to wish every single young person on this panel well into their futures. But of course, everybody in our province. It is Youth Day. Please celebrate Youth Day. Please make sure that we are all, where possible, able to be a mentor, able to help someone with their own journey into the future. It is a focus on youth, and we know that we have some huge challenges. And as I said in the beginning, where there's a challenge, that must be an opportunity. So thank you very much to each and every one of you for joining us today on this platform, for telling us about your story and your journey, because I really hope that that inspired someone else to say, well, I can do that too. So happy Youth Day. And please remember again, we are facing severe flooding and still more rain to come. Thank you so much to every single one of our emergency personnel, from traffic to fire to disaster management people, to citizens who are out there helping those who are really in need, because where they live has now been flooded. Please be safe out there. Don't take unnecessary risks while we have more rain coming. So please be safe there, each and every one of you. Thank you very much.